Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Ancient Arsenal by Jeffery H. Haskell, narrated by Emily Beresford. 1. Delphi, Greece, sometime in the past. Math is a funny thing. There are people who are good at it, and there are people who are bad at it. I happen to be very, very good. And even I can't calculate how screwed we are.
Amelia, explain to the nice gentleman with the guns that we aren't desecrating their ruins?
Luke asks me. I don't speak Greek, I say with a shrug. 2 local militiamen with revolvers stare us down on the peak of the Oracle Hill at Delphi, which is really nothing more than a series of stones left over from 2,000 years ago. It's strange. My brain knows this is 1901, but as far as my senses can tell, there is no difference. It seems like there ought to be. They gesture with their guns again, presumably to have Luke stand up. He's still cradling me in his lap, sitting on the ground where I found him. I try pointing at my leg so they will know I'm hurt, that I can't walk, but it doesn't seem to translate well. Frank, if we change things here, will we go back to our own time? I ask him. Frank Parker, father, analyst, time traveler, and distraught husband, is with us. He shrugs.
I've never gone back this far before, but every time I return, I always return to my time with nothing I've done affecting the present, he says.
He has his hands up, like the smart cookie he is. I should do the same. Spreading my fingers out, I raise my hands until the palms face the 2 officers. Epic, if you please. Sandpaper staccato sound fills the air as 2 bolts of ionic energy short-circuit the officers' nervous systems. They collapse to the ground, unconscious, their guns dropping harmlessly.
How long until they wake up?
Luke asks. I shrug. 10 minutes? He pushed me gently off before standing up, then reaches down to help me. I can only use one leg, so it isn't easy to stand unaided.
We should find Pythia before more come, he says.
I put an arm over his bare shoulders, and I just want to stay here forever. I can't shake the grin from my face. I know we're trapped back in time, but this entire last 2 years really, has been one giant kerfuffle after another. Here I have no enemies, no aliens, no mind controllers, no FBI, just me and Luke, and Frank. This will be like a vacation. What could possibly go wrong? We make our way to the spot on the hill where Sydney first showed me the secret entrance. One of these days I need to build a secret entrance to a base carved out of the side of a mountain. I wonder how expensive mountains are to buy.
Is this it?
Luke asks. I nod. I reach up to the spot where the stone is and press down. A loud click echoes in the air as the stone depresses under my palm. We wait a moment, then the ground shakes as it descends.
This is so weird, Frank says. Domino and the Protector told me about this lady, but this is weird. You travel through time, Luke says with a raised eyebrow. Yeah, but that's superpowers. This is... I don't know what this is.
I chuckle. Yeah, that was pretty much my reaction. Bear in mind, the moment we arrived here in this time, she likely saw us and knows things about us, so don't let that scare you. Also, try not to talk about the future too much. Not just with her, but with anyone.
My powers keep this from affecting our future,
Frank says. Then his eyes widen just a little bit.
Don't they?
Normally, yes, but you don't have your powers right now, do you? Odds are you're correct, and nothing we do will change the way things are back home. Causality will kick in, and everything we do will have already happened and won't change our present. Worst case, we won't even know, because when we return to the present, it will be our past, and...
It will already have happened,
Luke finishes for me. Head of the class, I tell him with a pat to his cheek. He's so cute when he's smart.
My head hurts, Frank says, rubbing his face with both hands. I've done this 100 times, but this time, because I don't have my powers, I have no idea how any of this works.
I've been thinking about this my whole life, and I still don't have an answer for you. Welcome to time travel, I say to him with a smirk. The lift descends below the rock ceiling, revealing the Oracle of Delphi's cave. Without the influence of a protector, it looks vastly different. Gone are the modern furnishings. It looks like we have descended into a Greek epic. The waterfall fills the room with mist and a constant splash of water, and the eerie blue light, like a small sun, shines through it as before. But the rest of the room, small stone benches line the pool, a massive bed of pillows dominates one wall, and everywhere I look, silk hangs from the ceiling. If I didn't know this was a cave, I couldn't tell by looking at it. Classical music plays softly from some kind of gramophone, if I had to guess. I don't recognize the song, but that's not exactly a newsflash. The most alarming thing is Pythia. She sits idly on a stone bench, holding a book and eating an apple. She doesn't look anything like either of the Pythias I've met. Not the little girl, and not the 17-year-old temptress. This is more a woman, maybe 25 or possibly as old as 30. Long black hair wraps around her shoulders in an elaborate braid. Her smooth olive skin is flawless, and her figure, simply beautiful. The thing that is so different about her is her air, her presence. She's strangely confident, yet power fills the room in palatable waves. Her face contorts as she sees us. "Who are you, and how did you get down here?" she asks with her voice like tinkling bells. I shake my head. Confusion rattles around, clouding my thoughts. "You don't know who I am?" I ask. How can she not know? I step off the ramp, and she immediately jumps up. A spear appears in her hands out of thin air, the bronze tip pointing straight at me. Her white robe hangs loose about her, flapping as she moves and revealing far more skin than I've ever seen from her. "You are intruders. You have 5 seconds to convince me not to kill you," she says. My first thought is that she's pulling my leg, but she never had much of a sense of humor. "You're Pythia, the Oracle of Delphi, left here by the dimensional traveler who went by the name Apollo." I refuse to call them gods. They may have pretended, but in reality they were just beings with immense power, meddling with people not their own. Heck, with a working Mark VI combat suit, I could take over the world in this time period. Not that I would. Dimensional traveler? Confusion crosses over her face. She opens her hand, and the spear vanishes as if it were never there. "How do you know these things?"
Aren't you the Oracle?" Luke asks. "I mean, we only ever met once, but that time you seemed to know everything about everything before we ever met you."
I glance back at him with a cocked head. I told him not to talk about the future. He shrugs and nods. I look back at Pythia. "You're her, right?" She slowly nods. Her eyes glow with a brilliant light that fades as fast as it came on. Faster than I can lift my arm to block out the light. "Oh," she says suddenly, "you're from the future?" "That's the Pythia we know and love," I say. It's a bit bittersweet seeing her. Since the last time we were together, she saved my life. Part of me wants to tell her not to do that, but clearly, since it already happened, even if I did tell her, she wouldn't listen. "I can't see you," she says with a frown.
"We're right here,"
Frank interjects. "That's not what—" Pythia and I start to say at the same time. We stop with our mouths half open, and she breaks into a giggle that I can't help but copy. Oh boy, my emotions are all over the place. "What I mean is, I can't see your fate, which means you don't belong here. Will you be returning to the future soon?" "You mean, go back to the future?" I can't help myself. Luke groans behind me. "Yes, that is what I mean," Pythia says, cocking her head to the side ever so slightly as she gazes at me. She gestures for us to come in and sit down. Silver platters appear on a small marble table. They're filled with fresh fruit, cheese, ham, and wine. Oh, what I wouldn't give for a Coke. Pythia cocks her head sideways, her eyes searching me for something. Then a bottle of vintage Coke, cork stopper and all, appears on the table.
"You've got to be kidding me,"
Luke says.
"They had Coke back here?"
He shakes his head as I slowly make my way over to the table and sit down. "Pythia, you are a godsend," I tell her. There is nothing like a real cold Coke after a long day. This is as long a day and as original a Coke as it gets. I untwist the metal prongs holding the cork in place and take a long pull of the sweet syrup. It tastes considerably different, and better than I'm used to. Right. I remember something about them changing the formula in the 30s or so. She comes over and sits with a plate of grapes. She puts one between her plump lips and slowly bites down, heedless of how effortlessly sexy it is. Luke very purposely looks away from her, and I can't help but smile at my beau. "How may I help, my future friends?" she asks after we've started eating. "We need a place to crash for a few years," I say between bites. "What happens then?" she asks. I'm too stunned to speak. My mouth opens and closes almost of its own accord while I process this. "You don't know? Can't you see the future?" I ask her. "I haven't been able to see more than a few days in the future since, 400 AD, and only then if I'm touching someone. I haven't had a visitor here since then. To say I've been lonely is an understatement, but I do what I can to serve." I look at Luke. He's clearly as bewildered as I am. She can't see the future? She doesn't know what's going to happen? Oh, we're in so much trouble. 2. A lot of things could have gone wrong up to this point. It never occurred to me, and it really should have, that Pythia was as dependent on the Tesla incident as everyone else with superpowers. Let me get this straight. You're saying that in a few years I'll be able to speak to Apollo again? Are you sure? Pythia asked in a strange mimic of my own dialogue. I nod. In our time, you are a prophetess of sorts, helping people when you can, I say. It's hard because I want to tell her certain things, but I'm not sure what will happen if I do. Can I even change the future? I seriously don't think I can. Whatever I do, succeed or fail, it's already happened. Trying to wrap my brain around that distracts me from what she says next. What was that? I ask her, returning my attention. I said, I've pretty much stayed here at Delphi since he created me 2,400 years ago. My sole purpose was to help guide mankind in the absence of the gods. I raise my hand in a halting motion. Let me stop you right there. We know who and what Apollo and his other friends really were. Certainly advanced and powerful, but please don't call them gods. They're no more gods than I am. Pythia quirked her head to the side and smiled ever so slightly. As you wish. I didn't think anyone on Earth would ever come to accept the idea of other dimensions of existence. Not parallel, but vastly different. Where my lord comes from, they harnessed the power of the stars to travel through time and space. When there were no more places to explore, they started visiting different dimensions. It was here they discovered that their differences made them powerful. Luke lets out a sigh and stands from the table to stretch.
Amelia, we need to talk about the thoroughness of your mission reports. This is a lot to take in, he says.
Frank is dumbfounded.
I thought you were crazy, he says, looking at me. Or that there was some other logical explanation for this, but the Greek gods were real?
I shake my head in a definitive no. They weren't gods, just advanced beings. If I had a working combat suit, I could conquer this time period. Same thing as them. I frown, looking down at the broken leg piece. I suppose I could patch it and have it work well enough. I doubt I could make the suit space-worthy, though. I just don't have the tech to effect the needed repairs.
Is there some place I can lie down?
Frank asks. Pythia stands, a smile on her face as she shows him to the bed. She pulls the covers back and gestures for him. Frank sits on the pillows, uncertain how to proceed on the unfamiliar bed. Pythia waves her hand over his head, and I swear, for a second, I can see a golden light pass from her and into him. He falls back on the bed, and she pulls the covers up over him. "Sleep now," she whispers to him. She turns to me with a smile. "He will sleep, undisturbed and safe, until I wake him." "You can do that?" I ask. Clearly she can, and I drop my face into my hands and close my eyes for a second. Never mind. Stupid question. She returns to the table, sitting closer to me now. I have to ask, what made you travel back in time? She glances over at Luke, who has wandered over to a chair and sunk down. His eyes droop, and slowly he nods off. Within a few seconds, his chest is rising and falling regularly. I let out a yawn, then take another sip of Coke while I think about the best way to answer this. The truth, obviously. But how much of the truth? I decide to stall. You sound different from when I met you before. How come? She flashed me a knowing look, taking another grape and plopping it in her mouth. You're stalling, but I'll humor you. I'm a creation of Apollo. I would be a poor creation if I couldn't communicate with people in a way they would understand. I sound like this because this is the way you will best understand me. Holy crap. It's an act? What is? Your whole Princess Zelda routine where you speak in mysterious sentences and creepily read people's minds. She giggles, which turns into a full-blown chortle. Oh, that's funny. It's not an act, per se. I don't have any control over it. I look and sound like people expect me to, that's all. So what do you really look like? I ask. I have no real look, she says with a shrug. What you see is what you get, until I change again. I nod in understanding, running my hands over my face. This is freaking revelatory. All that mystic crap she tried to convince me of was because I expected her to act like that. I shake my head with a grin. Okay, let me fill you in on a few things about the future. I'm going to guess that if there is one person who needs to know, it's you. I don't tell her everything, just the relevant parts. The red gem, us returning here to bring her forward. And lastly, I mention the Protector and the armor he wears. When I'm done, her eyes are impossibly wide. Oh, wow. It sounds like the future is exciting. I shrug. That's one way to put it. The Protector of my time is having trouble following his mandate. He needs you to guide him, give him purpose. That's the main reason we came back. We originally intended to grab you from 400 AD, but I hypothesized that traveling backward beyond the event that opened up our world to other dimensions would, in fact, mean Frank wouldn't have powers, leaving us stuck in the past, which would suck. She draws little circles on the marble table while we talk, her eyes occasionally darting over to Luke, and then, as if she remembers she has another guest, to Frank. This is all very interesting, Amelia. But you have to understand, I can't go with you, she says with a sad smile. You can't? But there isn't anything for you here. No, that isn't true. Apollo told me my greatest purpose would lie in the far future. If I leapfrog over huge chunks, then I could miss something important. There isn't any way I could leave, especially now, knowing that the Titan is out there, and that I'll soon be able to speak with Apollo, however brief. I open my mouth to respond, but just let it hang there, catching flies. I assumed the Protector needing her would be enough reason for her to come with us. Carlos is desperate for her guidance. It just didn't occur to me that I would need a secondary argument to convince her, other than telling her the truth about her death. If she knew, would she still go? Still sacrifice herself for me? These what-ifs can drive a person crazy. But they are only what-ifs. Instead, I say, I see your point. And I really do. I can't make her come back with me. Even if I could, we don't have a pod anymore, and I'm not sure I can repair my armor, let alone build something as advanced as a kinetic manipulator, using this time's primitive technology. The armor and this Protector you have mentioned, they are very interesting. It isn't the first time one has existed, she says. I shake my head in astonishment. What? Sidney was maybe 40 when he died? Who before that? Pythia said when one died, another was chosen. After Sid, it was Carlos, but I never heard of one before Sidney. Unless she means people like Achilles? Hercules? She quirks an eyebrow at me. You are clever. I can sense you working through the possibilities. Let me explain, she says with a smile. History remembers them with different names, but they all performed the same function, protecting humankind from destruction, she says. Hercules? I ask. I can't help the surprise in my voice. She smiles and perks right up. Yes, he was the first. Each hero added something to the calling. Strength, invulnerability, speed, travel, that sort of thing. The last one before the drift became too much to sustain their power was Leonidas, king of the Spartans, she says with a sad smile. He was a great man for his time. I truly wish he could have She stops in mid-sentence. Her eyes go wide and unfocus. She looks above me as if there is a presence there. "What?" I say, alarm spreading through me. I don't understand," she says, but not to me. "Of course, but why? Pythia?" I wave my hand in front of her eyes. She doesn't see them. "You're leaving? But I've done this alone for so long. Please don't." Her eyes return to our reality, instantly focusing on me before she bursts into tears, sobbing, collapsing against me and burying her face in my neck. Oh boy. Whatever just happened wiped her out. She lets out choking sobs and collapses on the table, crying like she lost her best friend. Luke rushes over, picks her up, and carries her to bed. Once she's tucked in and quiets down, he comes back over to me.
"What was that about?"
he asks me, glancing at her still form as her chest rises and falls slowly. I have no idea. That woman has always creeped me out. I don't ever know if she's telling me the truth, or what I want to hear, or what. I shake my head. Regardless, I need out of this armor. Help a girl out? He grins.
"Why, Amelia Lockhart, are you asking me to take your clothes off?"
I punch him in the arm. Technically, the clothes are on underneath this. 3. Kate. Kate stared out the window over the Parisian landscape. The once beautiful city held no sway over her. Not now. Maybe not ever again. Damn it, Amelia, where are you? The words slipped out of her lips, but she had meant them. Amelia was always so reckless, as if she weren't a normal human. Even with all the hurt not Luke had poured out on Carlos, he was almost back up. The magic armor really saved his life. She glanced behind her at the bed the young man occupied. She could take him back to the States, back to Teddy, but that would be more trouble than it was worth. The FBI had forcefully disbanded the Protectors and jailed everyone. If Kate and Carlos returned to the States, they would be arrested. As it was, there were warrants out for their capture. The only reason they were safe in Paris was that there was no paper trail from this apartment to Kate Petronelli. Hiding wasn't a plan, though. It was what to do while coming up with a plan. Brown, the FBI agent hounding them, needed to stop. But he wouldn't be getting away with this if he didn't have the support of his superiors. Kate knew how the business worked. She'd spent 6 years of her life as a spook for the CIA. No, someone high up is gunning for Amelia, but who? More importantly, why?
"Penny for your thoughts?"
Carlos stood up from the bed. Kate flushed as she tried, and failed to look away. Carlos was incredible. From his thick shoulders down to his calves, the man had a body like a Greek god. The best part, though, was that he genuinely didn't seem to realize it. He wore simple stretch pajama pants that hugged his waist, and a button-down shirt. It hung open, showing off his chiseled chest and abs. The only reason it was open was to make the sling he wore easier to adjust. It was a stark reminder that even the Protector wasn't truly invulnerable. "We're in Europe, so the money—"
"Euro for your thoughts?"
She smiled. "You got it. I was just thinking about Amelia." If there was anyone in the world, besides the two who were missing, that understood worrying about Amelia, it was Carlos. He walked carefully up next to her, keeping his distance so as not to touch her, even by accident. It was maddeningly frustrating. She'd made it perfectly clear how she felt. Each time she tried to move closer to him, he just pulled back. His apathy was a new experience for her, making his affection all the more desirable. She usually was the one pulling back, the one telling men no more, the one breaking hearts. But here she was like a lovesick teenager whose heart's desire seemed infuriatingly indifferent to her. Maybe I should just jump him and move on. But it wasn't sex she wanted. Even if she wasn't morally opposed to random hookups, she knew it wouldn't satisfy her. She had something deeper with Carlos, something real. She just needed him to admit it. She shook her head, only just realizing he had spoken to her. "I'm sorry, what?"
"I said, what now? We can't go back. I'm not sure how long we can stay here. What do we do?"
She shrugged. I don't know. You've just nailed the problem I've been going over in my head since the sun came up." She gestured to the sun hovering over the city, casting its morning rays.
"I don't suppose we could go bust everyone out of jail?"
he asked in a whisper. "As satisfying as that would be, no. It would make things worse. The government has frozen all of Amelia's assets that they are aware of. They're still trying to find who's paying for the team's legal counsel so they can freeze that, too." She smiled, thinking of who was defending the assets in question.
"Milton?"
Carlos asked. "Milton," Kate said. Even though they seized the spire, they had no way of knowing that Milton was hard-coded into a bank of supercomputers deep underground, connected to, but not physically located at the base. After the last time Amelia had disappeared, she made sure no one would ever get her tech again. Since she couldn't rely on vaporizing the place, she simply moved everything off-site that didn't need to be there. Kate just hadn't realized her friend would disappear again within a year.
"It's Amelia, Kate. She'll be okay. They're probably still looking for Pythia."
"Why would they have to look for her?" Kate asked.
"She wasn't always in Delphi. Before the gods showed her where the armor was, she moved among the people of the earth, trying to make a difference."
"So how are we supposed to find her?" she asked, trying to hide the shock in her voice at the thought of being stranded in the past. He smiled.
"You know when the Thune arrived and Pythia suddenly knew everything about them?"
"Yeah?"
"Same thing. She'll know Amelia is there and look for her too. It won't be long and they will be back. Trust me."
Kate scrutinized him for a moment. He truly believed what he was saying. His will was so strong, it wrapped Kate up in a blanket of belief and pulled her to him. He never lied, never hid the truth. When he spoke, it was the truth and nothing but the truth. "Who are you?" she asked in a whisper.
"Just a kid from Phoenix."
4. Kate waited quietly in the tree above the small ranch-style home in the family quarters at Fort Bragg. It hadn't been easy to infiltrate the place, but having the ability to teleport, along with Carlos's spear travel, meant they could be anywhere in the world in mere seconds. Of course, Carlos couldn't use his spear with any kind of stealth. If there was enough going on, maybe people wouldn't notice it, but this was too quiet a place for him to land in. Although it was damned impressive when he did land. Her thoughts had wandered off the beaten path, and she had to mentally smack herself to get back on track. The house belonged to Major Nelson and his wife. He was Air Force, but she was a colonel in the Army, so they stayed on the Army base. They had no kids, which made it easier. Whatever was going on, Kate didn't expect the Major to be a part of it. He had always helped them in the past, even at the risk of his own career. She hated involving him, but she had no choice. He was the only person she could turn to in the government. All her old CIA contacts were useless. Or worse. A white four-door sedan pulled up, illuminating the driveway with its overly bright LED headlights. Once the car stopped, both doors opened. Major Tony Nelson stepped out of the passenger side, and his wife, a petite woman with a dark complexion, came out the driver's side.
"I'll get the trash,"
he said. "Thanks, honey. I'll throw some of last night's lasagna in the microwave." Kate watched as his wife entered the house. Lights came on as she moved through the living room. Tony Nelson opened the garage door, disappeared inside for a moment, then came out towing a large plastic garbage can. He positioned it on the street, then went back in for another. Kate triggered her teleportation, vanishing from the tree without disturbing a single branch, and reappearing inside the garage behind the Major. Tony had good instincts. He turned, bringing his fist around to strike her jaw. Kate, however, was not just a highly skilled, experienced fighter. Due to her powers, her body was enhanced to the absolute human maximum. She caught his fist with one hand while pressing her other against his lips. "Hi to you, too," she said, her voice pitched low to be unheard. His eyes went wide before he nodded. She let go in the hope he wouldn't do anything stupid.
"I'm glad you're okay, but you shouldn't be here,"
he said. His head swiveled from side to side as if he expected ninjas to jump out of the shadows. "I need answers, and you're the only one who can give them to me," Kate said to him. He nodded. She could sense his doubt and worry, along with a strong streak of fear. That was odd. He didn't have to be afraid of her. What's scaring you so badly? She asked.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?